Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the celebration of World Intellectual Property Day. And you're celebrating with JAMCOPY, the Jamaican Copyright Licensing Agency. My name is Philippa Davies. I'm the Assistant General Manager at JAMCOPY. And today, April 26th, World Intellectual Property Day is being celebrated around the world. Since 2000, year 2000, April 26th is celebrated globally as World Intellectual Property Day to provide an opportunity for everyone to learn about the role that intellectual property, IP, plays in encouraging innovation and creativity. And the theme for each year is set by the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, which is the UN agency specializing in the administration of IP, and they're housed in Geneva, Switzerland. And the theme this year is Women and IP, Accelerating Innovation and Creativity. And they want to recognize that women everywhere are driving scientific breakthroughs, setting new creative trends, building businesses, and transforming our world. They often face significant challenges in accessing knowledge, skills, resources, and support. But today, we are going to celebrate the can-do attitude of women, inventors, creators, and entrepreneurs around the world, and also in Jamaica. So we have a very special panel with us today. We have some power talkers, and we're going to be hearing from them in just a moment. And they are writers or visual artists. Why? Because JAMCOPY, we are the collective management organization, the Copyright Society that helps authors and publishers of literary and artistic works to manage their copyright. So if you're a publisher or an author and your work is available to the public and you have not yet JAMCOPY, well, today's the day. It's an invitation to call us, come and visit, check our website, visit us on social media to get information on how JAMCOPY can help you to protect your copyright. So let me get straight to introducing our guests. They span in age across several generations, and they represent different styles of creative expression, which means that we're going to enjoy a rich and plentiful time together. Audience, let me tell you who is seated at the Power Talk table. Next to me, I have Mrs. Veronica Blake Carnegie, a retired teacher, principal, and prolific writer, and she's all of 92 years young. Welcome, Mrs. Blake Carnegie.
Thank you.
Next to her, we have Dr. Velma Pollard, a retired senior lecturer in language education at the UA-Mona. And she has written across several genres, whether academic or poetry or fiction. And we're going to hear a little bit more from her. Welcome, Dr. Pollard. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
And then we have joining online Mrs. Sharon Fox-Mold, who is a fine artist. And she is a painter as well as a photographer. And she's based in Maryland, USA. Hello, Sharon. Thanks so much for making time for us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I have been a member for JAMCOPY for I don't know how long, for a very long time. And I sat on the board for a number of years on behalf of Jamaica's visual artists.
Well, we're so glad to have you again with us today. Then going down the line, I'll go straight to the end and then come back to near the end. We have Dr. Terry Carell Reed, who calls herself an human Ethernet, a connector of people and dots, a communicator, and a personal brand specialist. So good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Terry Carell. Thanks so much. Thank you. And then we have the youngest among us, all of 12 years, Miss Courtney Greaves, head girl of Jesse Repole Primary School. So we all have to be on good behavior, ladies.
Yes.
Head girls in the house. And she's the winner of 7 awards in this year, the 2023 Global Poetry Foundation competition. Welcome, Courtney. Congratulations. So attendees, we are in esteemed company. Ladies, welcome and thank you. So if I may start with the eldest lady and the youngest lady here with me, beside me, Mrs. Veronica Blake Campbell. Mrs. Campbell, Carnegie, my apologies. The Caribbean community of retired persons described you as thus. Veronica Carnegie's zest for writing and sharing life lessons inspires us all to persevere with our God-given talent, regardless of her age. Her never-ending creativity reminds us of the Shakespearean character's description of Cleopatra. Age cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite variety. That sounds like you.
Boy, oh boy, she never stops.
What brought you into writing? What inspired you?
I think my journey Excelsior. I seem to have had the best teachers in the world at Excelsior, and they encouraged writing, and I began with them. I began life with them. Mrs. Sybil Prescott of long ago, and we ended up with Louise Bennett. A lot of people did not know that Louise Bennett did speech.
Okay.
And we were encouraged to writing our own things from those days.
So when did you start to publish your work?
Oh, after retirement.
After retirement?
Yes, after I became 65.
Okay.
Which I turned around to 56.
Right.
I began publishing my first book, The Tide Came Back.
The tide came back. And what was the receptivity of the public to your
good,
your book
good. And my friends helped me to market it and encouraged me.
Excellent.
Into my world of writing, and the publishers and the printers, and I learned so much from the printers themselves.
Right. I need to let everyone know, as well as those online, that you're also the recipient of a Musgrave Medal, bronze, for work in the field of literature. Last year, 2022,
yes,
we're surrounded by awardees.
Yes.
And how did you feel when you heard about that?
Oh, I was excited because I ranked now with people like Velma Broad and other great persons who have come from Mervyn Morris and those people. And I said, oh my, I'm really getting there,
Right. Oh, well, congratulations again. So you're still writing? Anything?
Yes. Now, to be launched on my 29th birthday will be a book called Episodes in Sweet and Sour Sauce.
Okay. Can you give us a little hint as to what's that about?
It's about the little things that have happened to us through the years. So some episodes, like the weddings, like the romances and so, and then that's sweet, and the deaths in the family, mother is gone, father gone, and those little sad things. So we have episodes in sweet, the wonderful things, the graduations, our children doing well, our children doing not so well. All of them make up the sweet and sour of the sauce, So that's what this is all about.
Wonderful. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you too.
Dr. Pollard, what were your inspirations for writing?
I think I've always written when I had something to say.
Okay.
I don't know how else to put it. Well, the first time I remember writing anything that anybody saw, I was too young to be inspired, I suppose, but there was a competition in elementary school. And I wrote about death, and I'm trying to figure out why I may have written about death.
Death.
I admit I had before. Okay. But like, as Mrs. Blake Carnegie says, Excelsior encouraged any kind of artistic output you had. There was dance, there was painting, there was Abby Baxter for dance, Cecilia for painting. And the teachers that she had, I remember, mine are not hers. I remember Pearl Morgan, for example, who taught mostly history, but taught me English, and who was wonderful in her appreciation of writing, poetry, and whatever. So all those music, the environment was very nurturing.
Well, let me put something in there. Miss Morgan also taught me history.
She's a wonderful historian. Few people know that she used to teach English as well.
So let me just add that you also are the recipient of an award,
Musgrave.
a Musgrave Award.
It's on there. I don't
No,
think
you
mine is.
didn't have that. No, please tell us.
Musgrave, yes.
And you also received Casa de las Americas Prize in 1992 for your novella, Carl. What was that novella about?
Well, it was about so many things. I really think it is my major commentary on the Jamaica social situation. It is the story of a young man who was from the country, very brilliant, did well, studied abroad, came back as a bank manager, and eventually went off his. And to me, my nation, he loses his money because he's with the social situation in Jamaica. In other words, in his mentally deranged state, he's talking about the brown aristocracy, the brown bosses in the bank, and all the things that make him uncomfortable, and his need to go back to the peace of where he came from. So I have to say that's the only thing I wrote, which I said I would prepared to pay to publish. And then I didn't have to because I got the prize and they published it in English and Spanish.
And in Spanish.
Yeah, well, it's Casa de las Americas Prize, so they published it in both. And then Longman published Carl and other stories, because Carl is just 80 pages. So they put it in a book with other stories.
I've written and published across genres.
When I was working, so I had to publish my job at the university. That's not to say I didn't work with it. I did because I think I was always something that I wanted to.
And your area of interest was languages?
Well, yeah, my main study is, I don't know what, to me, the most meaningful is that expression to make people. I'm really sorry I never did anything. Everybody has to publish their thesis, but I'm so glad to finish today. I enjoyed the research and all the rest of it, but you know, after a while, you just want to be out of there. No, I'm sort of sorry, but that was the most meaningful, and it is really pastime expression. Jamaican Creole, which so many people don't really understand how it functions. So anyway, I've done a lot of other writing about Jamaican Creole and the other Creoles in the Caribbean. That's really important. And the use of language in literature, that's another big part of mine.
So can you say anything? What was your experience like in the whole production or publishing of the works? Did you engage yourself, or you just handed to a publisher for both the academic and the fiction and poetry? None of them.
As I said, I thought that Carl was important enough that I would have paid to publish it. But then I didn't have to. But the other things, I just sent them out. I was lucky. So.
Yes, indeed. Let me bring in the artist online and Sharon Foxmold. And can you just say, how do you find being a visual artist? How was it when you were in Jamaica, and how is it now that you are in the US?
As a visual artist in Jamaica, it was it's a small pond, and fortunately for me, I had a background in Mrs. Carnegie would identify. I did a degree in literature and psychology at university, but I did put some art in there because I've been an artist most of my life. However, when I came back to Jamaica, I found that a lot of the artists, there were two different sets. There was an educated set of artists and very talented, but not as well educated. And so for me, it was a challenge to try and bring us all on the same level, because the talent was always there in all our visual artists, but the recognition that we had to be business people and to be disciplined in how we put our art business together was not. And so we had struggling artists, which was not necessary. And we had artists who were very successful because they applied some business skills that they had learned into art. Art is 50% business, 50% talent. And if you don't mix that, then it is very difficult for a lot of artists to actually make a living from art. I was fortunate in that I could do that. However, there are now and still a lot of my friends who are artists who have not joined the business world. And I'm so sometimes a little bit upset or a little bit that they haven't, because as I tell them, you cannot ask for help from anybody, government, or they can recognize that business, you have to be an advocate for the whole community. You can't be divided and make it work. You really do have to be an advocate. I don't think I was so successful in conveying that message to everybody. But there are artists who have decided to treat their talent as a business and who continue to grow. In the US, it's a little more competitive, but then I also have the skills. I'm a member of several different art communities, and I am in several different galleries, so that my work in promoting, the effort I put in promoting my art is less for me here in Jamaica.
Yes. So you have exhibited in Jamaica, you have exhibited at the National Museum and Art Gallery in Trinidad and Tobago. Paintings are exhibited at the National Fair and your current Maryland.
Yes, and several others. I have several. I mean, those are just some of the more notable ones. But I'm in several other galleries, and I have representation with agents who actually promote my work, which is something I enjoy, because I don't have to actually go out and sell it and have to negotiate price and all of that.
Right.
So that's a thing. And I've exhibited in London, in Bahamas, all over.
Great. And what you said is something that's common to so many artists and writers, musicians. It's common across the creative industry. Persons just want to invest in the expression of themselves and whatever their particular skill is, but then the nitty-gritty of the business side is demanding as well. What would you say would need to happen in Jamaica in order to help the visual artist community balance and manage both the creative expression and the business side? Well,
I think the Jamaica Guild of Artists had a program when I led it for about 12 or more years. And we had a program where artists would register an art business, would register their intellectual property, and get assistance for accounting and that kind of thing. The support structure was there. However, not many artists wanted to use it because they were going to be forced to pay taxes. And if that was the case, then they had to have proper accounting and proper books. And I found that not many were willing to do that.
Okay. But it's a reality if you want to make a living from your artistic expense, your pen, and
exactly
the business. Do you have any favorite authors, any particular genres?
I read, I'm more of a science fiction reader.
Okay.
And different I read art books. I'm a how you do things reader.
Okay, great.
So
So let me just say to those persons who may be the first timers on a JAMCOPY webinar, so glad to have you. Hope you will continue with us. But just to let you know a little bit more of our role in how we help creatives balance that creative expression and business side of managing their copyright, and also to build a copyright compliant culture in Jamaica. So JAMCOPY, we're one of 3 collective management organizations, meaning that we are acting on behalf of a large group of creators, the collective, helping them to manage their copyright. There are 2 other companies like us. They are specializing in music, JACOP and JAMS. And JAMCOPY, our focus is the written word and visual arts that are published in print. So whether it's newspapers or textbooks or novels or books of poetry or photographs or illustrations or journals, that is our specialization. Now, the fact is, the copyright law says that if anybody wants to make a copy, an extract of a particular work that is in print, they have to get permission from the copyright owner. That's what the law says. And it may be hard for, say, a school or a university to track down every single author or every single publisher of all the works that their students and the lecturers that are using. It's going to be time consuming and quite demanding. And it's also going to be time consuming and demanding for every author and publisher to keep track of everybody who'll be making a copy or copies of extracts of their work. So you need a middleman. So somebody's going to do the running around for you. And that's where a collective management organization like JAMCOPY steps in. We are the bridge between the creator and the consumer. And we will make contact with those users like a UE, a UTEC, a Shortcut Teachers College, the government of Jamaica, the Ministry of Education, to negotiate with them a license. And what the license does, it gives them permission to make limited copies of extracts of the work, and they would then pay over the license fee to us, which we then pay on to our authors and publishers as their royalty payments. And that way, the users are legal. You're not stealing somebody's work. You're not making copies without permission. You could get sued if you do, but we don't want you to. We want to make sure that you are legal and you have a JAMCOPY license. But there's an additional benefit. There are about 150 of us around the world, other collective management organizations like JAMCOPY. And we have arrangements with more than 40 of those across the world. And so a JAMCOPY license not only gives you legal access to the works of Jamaican authors and publishers, but also to the US, to Canada, to the UK, to Japan, to Barbados, Trinidad, the Eastern Caribbean. You get access to the world and millions of works. So JAMCOPY license is a good thing to get. And if you want more information, you can visit our website, jamcopy.com, or visit us on Ruthven Road, number 17, or give us a call and we can talk about why a JAMCOPY license is a good thing to get, a necessary thing to get, and how it can benefit you in your business and also as an author and a publisher. So with that little bit of education, I'm going to move on to our next power talker, who is the newest or one of the newest affiliates with JAMCOPY, and that is Terry Carell Reed. And you've not only just a content creator on social media, but you've also written a book. Yes. Can you tell us about your publication?
Thank you. So I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary in the announcement of my book, and it's my brand compass, the 13 C's to building your personal brand. And I actually started it. They said if you want to make God laugh, you plan, right? Man a plan and God a while. And so for me, my intention was never to be an author. This was never on my list of things to do, in fact. But in 2020, everyone knows the pandemic hit. And as an event host, all of my events that had been previously scheduled canceled. And so, like many people, we were at home trying to figure out what the next move was going to be. And I recall over the years that persons within my social media community had always asked me, how is it that you're able to expand your territories? How is it that you're able to build communities? How is it that you're building this brand while being yourself? Like, do you have a formula? And my answer was, at the time, yeah, I guess, but I had not sat down to really think about it. So I said, all right, now that I have the time, I'm going to sit down and try to help people to navigate this whole world in terms of personal and professional brand. And so during the pandemic, I put it together. And what is interesting, just even being on this panel, is one of my C's of the 13 C's is copyright. And it's because I agree with what Sharon was saying. A lot of the times we are creative. And I think as Jamaican people, we are just wired. It's in our DNA to be expressive and to be creative. And things that come very easy to us or things that we're passionate about, we do not always recognize the value. We do not realize the monetary value in it as well. And sometimes we don't understand the roots when it comes to protecting that intellectual property. And so for me, it was using the book to even explain to persons that as they expand in whatever areas they're doing, whether it is written word or visual art or just registering a business, the idea is that you must also be thinking about the business aspect. So I just published, sold across the world, almost 4,000 books, and I just launched Audible as well last week. And so now I've moved from just written word to now spoken word.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So how does engaging with the public then on social media influence what you've written or what you write or how you write?
I think a huge part of being a writer, being a visual artist, I think is also being an active listener and being someone who observes people around you and understands what their pain points might be, and then trying to see how you can fill that gap, whether you are going to provide information, whether you are informing, educating, or entertaining. That is what I did. I just simply listened, looked at all of the frequently asked questions, and then I decided to deliver a product in a digestible manner that has illustrations that were done by a female Jamaican here, a visual artist. I had the person who did my cover was also an illustrator who's a Jamaican female. So it was also not just doing a product for me and my community, but also engaging other women within the ecosystem to collaborate on the product and the project. And I think that was easily one of the nicest things, not just it being about me, but how do you get other members of the community to collaborate? I thought that was a lovely experience.
Right. And having had that experience now of your first book, will you publish again, you think?
Well, before I even really announced properly, before I even got through the first 2 months, people are going, so are we going to get another one?
Okay.
And certainly the answer to that is yes. And I remember sharing the information. So as soon as I published, we had to make our deposit of the 2 books at the National Library of Jamaica. And so, just the conversation, I'm like, so why do we have to make this deposit? And what they explained was, hey, suppose you lose all your manuscripts. Suppose you lose all your digital copies. How do you prove that you are, in fact, the original creator of this? Or if there is an issue where there is plagiarism of some sort, how do you prove that you are actually the original? Well, we have 2 deposits here that we can go in and we can show when it was, just even that, understanding protection. So I shared it with my community because I believe that if you believe in the abundance mindset, then you shouldn't be afraid to share knowledge with your community. So I said, hey, I deposited my 2 books. This was a part of the process. And someone came under my post and said, have you considered JAMCOPY? And at the time, I was like, I don't even know what JAMCOPY was because it's just not the space. Went on the website, did my research. I must say that it was very easy. The moment I called, someone answered the phone. It wasn't an automated service, it took us everywhere. And the moment I came off, I received my email, I received the application form. The entire process was seamless. And I went through the process and I feel better knowing that I cannot be everywhere all the time. I do not have the power to track down and ensure that I'm being protected in all spaces. And to have JAMCOPY be that sort of management is also an ease, I think, for me and consumers as well, for them to think twice before trying to extract something without permission.
Thank you very much for the plug for JAMCOPY. But it's very real, it's very true, it's very practical what we do as the middleman, the go-in-between. So glad you mentioned National Library of Jamaica. It is actually required on law. There is a Legal Deposits Act that says every Jamaican who has published, whether it's written or music, you must deposit a copy with the National Library of Jamaica for archival purposes, historical heritage purposes, but also to give that support to your claim as the author of this work. Now, persons might say, well, if I haven't published yet, what I must do, what can I do? Well, there's a simple method of self-registration where you would mail a copy of your work to yourself by registered mail through the post office. You put it in an envelope, you seal it, and you go to the post office, you pay the small amount, you keep the little piece of paper. When it comes back to you, don't open the envelope, you keep it sealed, because it's like a timestamp that on such a day you created this work. And here is a copy with the receipt from the post office. You can also deposit a copy, an e-copy of your work with JIPO, which is the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, which is a government agency with responsibility for administering the IP laws in Jamaica. And they would keep a digital copy and give you a certificate to say that you gave them a copy of this work on such and such a date. And again, it's like a timestamp. It's important to know that those activities don't give you copyright, because copyright arises automatically once your work is no longer in your head, but it's actually on paper. So those activities, whether it's the National Library, whether it's JIPO, whether it's the post office, or whether it's JAMCOPY, we're not giving you copyright, but we are simply giving you evidence, corroboration of your claim that I wrote this poem, I wrote this book, I took these pictures and published them in this catalog. That is what the purpose of those activities that those activities do. Okay, so thank you very much. So we must pay homage, though, I think, to an iconic lady of innovation and creativity, and that's the late Louise Bennett Coverley. She epitomizes today's theme. She was a trailblazer as a poetess, a performer, and an archivist of cultural folklore. And undoubtedly, she demonstrated innovation and creativity through her poems in Jamaican patois, the Creole. And a description of her in one of her books, Jamaica Labrish, says that she raised the picturesque dialect of the Jamaican folk to an art level. And that has come to be appreciated and loved by Jamaicans at yard and in the diaspora. So let me just ask, do any of the poet ladies have anything they'd like to share about Miss Lou?
Not about Miss Lou, about JAMCOPY.
Oh, certainly. Well, I just ask you just to speak a bit loud, because our attendees are saying they're not able to hear you so clearly. So if you can make sure to, if you're not comfortable taking off the mask, but just to speak a little louder, though. All right, just to project. All right, thank you.
I just want to say that JAMCOPY is one of the most useful agencies, in my experience, in Jamaica. Let me just quickly say that when somebody photocopies your work, for some reason, JAMCOPY, she's experienced now, Davis has explained to you why, they get to know. And they pay you once a year. I get quite a sizable check. And the most recent thing is a college in the US has been using one of my books, and it went out of print. So now they have to photocopy. It's a small book, card that I spoke about. It's only 80 pages. And maybe they only pay 17 cents per page. But 80 by 17, and depending on how many they ask for. And I have to say to you that I have been benefiting. All I'm saying is that when they wrote to ask my permission or ask what to do, I didn't think twice. I just handed it over to JAMCOPY, and thereby hands the tea. So I just want you to know, and I have encouraged all my friends who write to sign up to JAMCOPY. I have not had as much success as I would like. I would hope that everybody I have spoken to has done it. But I know one person who is listening now who has not done it. And I'm saying again, there's no point having JAMCOPY willing to help you and you not avail yourself of it. So I'm here to say that JAMCOPY works.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Mrs. Carnegie is a good student, you know. She put her finger up. Just Miss, Miss, I want to say something.
Listen, I want to say something about Louise Bennett.
Yes.
A lot of people didn't know and don't know. Louise Bennett taught at Excelsior, and she did speech. She taught us to recognize a letter called the H. Some people don't even know to spell H. Louise Bennett brought this to us and to Jamaica, those of us who were there. We had to pronounce the H. We had to go through days of Hannibal crossed the Alps. Hannibal, 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 Hannibal crossed the Alps until we learned to respect the H. For Jamaicans don't seem to like the H.
Yeah.
Many of our ministers and others in prominent places don't know to respect the H. And I'm going to give credit to Louise Bennett. She taught us speech and drama at Excelsior. I just want to make people know that she did do. She was not just patois. She was, Jamaican, as they call it, Jamaican-y. But she was a good, when she came from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, and she was our speech teacher. The ED, the ING, but more than ever, the AITCH.
May I say something?
Yes, please. Sure.
I think I've been with you from the very beginning. Jean Forbes. Hi,
Ms.
Veronica.
I taught her at Immaculate, you know.
You could not. Okay.
She
So,
remember.
No, I used to come down there and haunt you every now and again, but all right. I just wanted to say, right, that I'm just coming from another meeting. That's why I'm late. And I'm about ready to commit murder or something from people who sign a form that says that they are not going to steal other people's work and then proceed to steal it. And as one of my students just told me, but she do it at our college and nobody says anything to her. Look here. And it's upsetting, right? Because we have been making them sign. I teach Mind at Mind, and we have been making them sign the plagiarism form, and they sign it, and they then cheerfully plagiarize. So I've just come from a meeting where people say, but it's not every word that I copy. No, but it is the majority you're supposed to understand. But I don't know. I thought I'd just say that to you, JAMCOPY, that this plagiarism is in all of the colleges, right? And that's why they are so afraid of what? The computers being able to do certain teaching jobs because they are not doing it. And I'm tired of being the only miserable person around. All right.
Yeah, may I say something in that regard? JAMCOPY has spent, I served on the board of JAMCOPY for a number of years, and it has been an unending effort by JAMCOPY to get to the universities and the colleges and those things to fall in line. This is a very long fight that has been going on with that. But I would also like to add that a lot of the, as you said, copy and plagiarism also happens in the digital world. As a matter of fact, it happens in the digital world to me on a much larger scale. And I think that the protections there are somewhat limited. I wanted to know if JAMCOPY is now looking at that as an option for pursuing, protections there.
All right, so a couple of questions. Let me just comment on what Ms. Forbes spoke about with plagiarism. Just to one clear that there is a difference between plagiarism, which is representing somebody's words as your work. So it's not about photocopying the page. It's about typing in your essay, completely verbatim what is in somebody else's work. So that's plagiarism. You're misrepresenting who is the author of the work, which is different from infringing, where we would take up this book and make photocopies, 50 pages, 100 copies, without getting a license and permission from the owner of the work. That is infringement, and you would need a license in order to make copies of the work. But the plagiarism now is a moral, it's an ethical issue, and that lecturers and students would have to make it very clear to them that this is stealing somebody's ideas, you are lying, it's dishonest in representing their work as your own. That would not be the remit of a JAMCOPY. Certainly it's part of our public education activities to inform students about the ethics of being a creator, but also using other person's works. But in terms of licensing, we are really about ensuring that persons are not going to infringe the work by making multiple copies of extracts of the works. But I hear you, Ms. Forbes. I hear the distress. I fully understand. And that moral, ethical issue would have to be drilled in by the university and all creators to say, you must respect our creativity. Don't steal our work, whether by photocopying or presenting our ideas as yours. Terry, you wanted to say something on that?
I would add, but actually, I mean, because I figured you're speaking about Miss Lou to segue to
into our youngest
and
poet.
So I want to actually allow you to segue to her, and I will allow that.
So thanks so much, and thank you to somebody who has been inspired by Miss Lou. I read in the newspaper that she inspired you to write. Is that so? To tell us, Courtney, what do you write about, and what makes you excited about being a poetess?
I write about anything that I find in the news, what persons have told me, basically anything that comes to my mind.
Okay.
When the children of my school were graduating last year, I wrote a poem on all of the steps that they had to take from coming to school in September to know I've graduated from it. My first poem, I believe, was Pervert. I wrote about a little girl who a man kept coming to her school trying to tell her to come with him because her mother sent him with him, but that was not the truth.
So you tackle some serious issues, right? And you want to warn your classmates, your peers about certain dangers that are out there in society. So tell me, how do your classmates feel about you being a top awardee in the global poetry competition?
They tend to tease me about it a lot, because naturally I have a louder voice because I do a lot of poetry. So whenever I start to speak, they're saying, Courtney, do it as a poem. No, I will better understand it. Do it as a poem.
Okay. So that's your modem, your language, communicated through poetry. Well done, well done. So tell me, do you plan to write and publish? Do you like to put out your own books one day? Yeah.
Yes, I do indeed plan on publishing my work because I want my work to be an inspiration to those around me and also my classmates who also like to write as well.
Very good. Well, all the best to you. And remember, JAMCOPY is here when you are ready. So let me ask, do you have any questions for any of these ladies, having listened to their stories and their experiences? Is there anything that you would like to ask them? No pressure, but if anything came to mind.
I actually did want to ask, is there anything in specific that Miss Lou actually like to teach the students other than the English?
Yes. What was the question?
Did Miss Lou, is there anything else that Miss Lou taught the students besides having to pronounce the H?
Oh, of course, to respect the language especially, and to respect their country, for instance. And she assisted us in making us realize that Jamaica, our land, was the most important. And we learned the business of not talking about Britain, because I grew up in a time when Britain so and so and so. And Miss Lou taught us that Jamaica was the to see and to respect Jamaica and those things, the ackee and the food and everything that grew here, you know. So I'm glad you asked that question, because that was the important thing. Our dance, our songs, the men digging on the roadside and singing. Miss Lou was responsible for telling us and teaching us to respect all of that. So thank you.
Yes, yes. And it is true. We little but we tell a lot.
It is.
When you
it
think
is.
about how
It is.
Jamaica to the world,
is, it
everyone knows about Jamaica and speaks about Jamaica. But let me ask the other ladies, would you like to ask any of your other panelists any questions from what you've heard or like to know about? No pressure, but just if any thoughts came to mind.
And I just want to add to this that they're now honoring Harry Belafonte. Last night I heard that is Miss Lou taught him some of those digging songs and the banana songs and so. And I heard that last night. So I'll add that to her story, you know.
And I think that's an important I think that point is extremely important, that for those of us who consider ourselves artists and we feel compelled to share our knowledge, our passions, our interests with the hope that we will inspire, just like how Courtney said, she hopes that her poems will help to inspire. It also means that if we want it to go for the long haul and we are looking for legacy, that legacy has to be protected. And I think in a lot of the conversations when we hear about copyright, it either sounds difficult, it sounds very hard, it sounds like something extremely tedious. You sometimes feel as if, well, if you're not a copyright lawyer, then do you even need to do it? And I think it's important for us to speak about the benefits. Or I think as we share this awareness platform and we speak about copyright, it's important for us to say, what are the benefits? And I think Miss Lou and other persons like her wouldn't have that legacy if they treated their brands, their work carelessly.
Yes.
And it is our responsibility. So even though, yes, JAMCOPY and other agencies have a right to help to educate and to help to make us aware, it is also our responsibility as self to go in search of information. And the reason why I say this unapologetically is because people will sit down online and scroll through 1,000 comments, which means they don't have a problem reading. And they don't have a problem sussing and gossiping and sending and getting this comment and screenshotting and emailing and very savvy. But the moment you ask them to go a little bit further to find out information that could potentially benefit themselves or their work, it's too much, it's too hard. We don't want to read, we don't want to dive, but then we think that other people owe it to us to teach us everything. And so I'm just here to use my voice and to use my platform to say, yes, we do have accessibility issues. We do have persons who require help. We do have persons who are starting to publish at an older age and may need to understand all the nuances. But for the most part, we have to be very active. We have to be very intentional about the information that we need to seek in order to make the next step. And if we're not willing to do that, then you really can't blame other people for that. And I think in the creative space, a lot of the time, there's a lot of blaming and displacement of blame. And a lot of the times we need to look at ourselves and ask, are we doing the deep work? Are we asking the right questions? Are we being egotistical? Are we full of pride? Or are we going out of our way to find the people who can assist? And if you're not willing to do that, then stay stuck in whatever rut and be quiet. That's all I have to say.
Very good.
That's all I have to say.
Philippo.
Yes.
Philippo, hi. There's a question in the chat for Courtney.
Yes, I saw it. I'm going to get to those. All right. So Courtney, we want to know, there's a question that if you write in standard English, or if you write in patois, or if you write in both.
I actually write in both. I like to upgrade our patois, but I also like to stick to our standard English and
Bilingual Jamaica.
Okay.
There's no reason why everybody can't be bilingual, why everybody can't be competent in patois as well as in English. why people don't realize that language is about language and situation. If you go to a place where patois is being spoken, that's what you speak. And if you're in an English-speaking environment, that's what you speak. In our regular day-to-day environment and interaction, we use both. You just said, man, I write and I said, God, I robot. And in what is supposed to be a sort of English environment. And so I just want to say that we are a people coming out of Africa, which has so many different languages. I have friends who have to know 5 languages to go in the market. We're coming out of China, where the dialects are not mutually comprehensible. And we're coming out of India. So we have no excuse, multilingual. We speak patois in English and we go to school and we learn Spanish and French. Nothing is wrong with that. And I'm tired of hearing, oh, well, you know, we have to so because he or she speaks only English or speaks only patois. There really is no such person in Jamaica. Even if they can't produce it, certainly everybody understands both. And I don't think that it's a burden for children to be able to be bilingual the way you are and to work by them. When I write, somebody interviewed me and asked I there's not more patois poems. No, I didn't think there's not patois. And I would say, when I bring in a character, the character comes with his or her language. And if the character would speak English, then I write that in English. If the character speaks patois, then that's what I use. So in my fiction, which is not just me, it's people I'm creating, that's where you will find the multilingual aspect of the Jamaican environment. So I'm glad to hear that you're writing in both, because both represent us equally.
I have a question for Courtney.
Okay, great.
So the question I have for Courtney is, you know, there's a lot of research and study that's showing us that our literacy rates are falling, or older than you in high school don't seem to want to read. They don't want to explore books. Some things, if it's too long, they can't bother. And here it is, you know, you are not just a reader, but you're also creating your own work. What advice, I think, do you have for students who are struggling to find, and they don't have to love reading or even writing as much as you, but how do we encourage them, not only on the protection of their information, but how do we encourage them that reading is good and it helps you to explore other areas? Like, what's the advice you have for them?
I really and truly believe that reading is something that is for everyone. So if you find a book that you like, such as nonfiction, fiction, whatever you really like to read, I recommend you read it, because each of those can give you a good mindset. In school, they tell you to read this and read that. But I want you to find your own path in reading, what you love to read, and read that. Whether there be 100 pages, 50 pages, read it, because you can learn a lot from it.
All right, thank you so very much. Out of the mouth of babes. Thank you for that. Very practical, very practical advice.
So Courtney, what do you like to read?
I like to read nonfiction. I like to read about our environment, our galaxies, and basically anything that has to do with nonfiction, social studies, and even language. I have learned on and off.
I think the question I have, going back to what Sharon asked about digital, and we spoke about the ethical problems, and I think the copyright conversation has gotten really muddy because of the dawn of social media and digital. We have creators who are copying other creators. We have creators whose whole accounts on social media are not based on their original content, but based on content created by other people. They do not credit their sources, they do not tag their sources, and some people also take quotes and extracts from books and poems and pass it off as their own. I guess going back to the question that Sean asked is, how do we as creators protect, how do we share our work with the world so that the world knows that we exist, that we can do business, and yet stave off people who are also making money, building brands, building communities, building opportunities around content that they don't even own? How do we even navigate the space of digital that continues to evolve right in front of us?
Right. And that is a problem that digital has brought. And to anyone who has anything online, the music persons have the challenge, as do writers, content creators. As best as you can, use whatever digital locks are available. So whether it is putting watermarks or whether it is having subscription, paid access in order to filter or to control who is able to access and download your works, that even we are solutions, we are not reaching the universe of copying that takes place, whether in Jamaica or across the world. We're not able to. So that's why we go various institutions and we say, if you're using copyright protected work, the fact is that we're not going to be able to reach every single person. We're not able to capture everything. But let's just say that right now, with our license, with a JAMCOPY license, an institution is getting legal access to make limited copies of the printed publication, but also it covers any digitization that may take place in the scope of teaching and learning. So whether it is having an intranet, whether it is uploading, whether it's downloading, whether it's scanning, whether it is faxing, it is covered under the license. We don't have the technology yet to be able to track digital to digital copying, but hopefully technology might facilitate that. But until that time, it is the print copying of extracts of the printed work and any digitization from the printed work. And that is covered under a JAMCOPY license.
Thank you.
Right. Well, we want to respect everyone's time. We know that it has been a rich experience and exchange thus far, but I just want to ask our panelists if there is any last words or any nuggets of encouragement that you would like to leave with our attendees, and especially to any female writers, up-and-coming writers that may be out there who are listening and interested and thinking, you know, I want to put my words down on paper as well. Is there anything, Mrs. Carnegie, you'd like to?
I was just thinking in terms of the ISBN people.
Yes.
I don't know how big that group is, but I wanted to say then, thanks to them. That's a group, I know you may be affiliated with them. Want to say thank you to all those people who have worked so quietly regarding our international standard book numbers. We have heard not much about them, and on behalf of all of us, I'd like to say thanks to that group who has given us writers our international standard book numbers without any fuss and flurry, you know.
Well, I'm sure they're not used to getting compliments and expressions of gratitude, so
Yes.
we'll pass on to the
just
ISBN.
Yes.
And it is the National Library in Jamaica that issues the ISBN to publishers, authors and publishers in Jamaica. So we send a big shout out to Miss Beverly Lashley and her team at the National Library of Jamaica. Thank you for all that you do in archiving and preserving our heritage for us, and also to all the team at the Jamaica Library Service. And just to let persons know, there are a lot of resources and help available through those institutions. I know that the library, Jamaica Library Service, from time to time, they put on public events, as well as the National Library of Jamaica, targeting writers, up-and-coming writers, to help them develop their craft. So do connect with your local library and the National Library of Jamaica. There is support available. Dr. Collard, any
Well,
nuggets that you want to
this
share?
panel and this time, for some reason, there's something in what you said or what you wrote that mentioned that there's a focus on women. And that's perhaps why only women are here this time. And I just want to say that women write wherever they get the chance to write. Women who tell me, I don't have the time, I say, you don't have time, you have to make time. And all I'm asking is for everybody to have paper by your bed, in your kitchen. In the kitchen, it's not just recipes and shopping lists that you write. A poem comes to you or begins to come to you. Just write it on whatever there is. I know that for a long time, I had huge bags of pieces of paper. And then when you have time, go over it, do some adjustment, and then eventually you type it. The problem is that once you type it, it looks perfect. It doesn't mean it is. Still go over it. But just for a start, you don't have to leave the kitchen to write something that's in your head. Paper should be there. So I'm just saying to women who sometimes get stuck in certain, whether it's the nursery or the kitchen or the office at lunchtime or what have you, keep paper and a pencil. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon, how about you? Nuggets of encouragement?
Well, I have nuggets of encouragement, but mine is not so much female-based. It's creator-based in that thanks to JAMCOPY and their licensing, there is another business model that creators can use. Because we are, as an artist, I would create an image for a company who wanted a logo or whatever, or just a design, and they would own it. I've changed my business model now to say, if I create something, I own it. And this was because of the JAMCOPY model that they gave us. I own it and I license it for you, so many uses or whatever. And so even though we're doing it for writers, we can also do it for visual artists as well. That's my nugget.
Thanks so much, Sharon. Terry?
Okay, I'd like 5 very quickly. Just based on, and I have to say it's an honor. It has been an honor to sit with the panel. I think because not often we see this wide range of age. So I'll start with that. As a creator, age is but a number.
Thank you.
Just start. You're welcome, my darling. Age is just a number. I heard Mrs. Carnegie say what 65 was when she published her first book. Age is just a number, so just start. Number 2, an idea is just an idea. It's something that sits in your head, and it's probably something that has been thought of others. The only difference between others and you is that they actually executed it. So it's one thing to have an idea, but it's another thing to actually see that idea to fruition. Procrastination and perfectionism, as I'd say, are enemies of progress and progression. A lot of us as women, we want everything to be perfect, and we want everything to fall in line before we can actually release something into the world. And I say, start, finish, execute. And then you can do iterations. You can have first edition, second edition, third edition. You can do all kinds of modifications and just execute. And you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be good enough, and then you continue to go along. It's not enough to be passionate and creative. It's another thing to learn how to be business minded. And so you have to put as much energy into learning the business part as you do into the passion. And ask your questions, go in search of the answers. And finally, you must give back in some way, shape, or form. So when I published my books, what I did was I donated 14 books to each parish library. And that was my way of understanding that many women, the most vulnerable, will not have access to certain types of information. And so my give back was, and the library is still one of the only sources that some people have to get information. So my give back was, now that I've created this, if I donate a book per parish, then I help to give access to someone else and they don't have to pay for that access. So those would be my nuggets to anyone who is thinking of publishing, writing, drawing, painting, illustrating, anything. You're welcome.
And Courtney.
I want to say that your voice is an unstoppable force that can move mountains, inspire others, and let someone else's mind loose. Women today are an unstoppable force that cannot be slowed down, stopped, nor moved. They will just keep progressing to the final level. They will go so far as to be what they want and what they want the next generation to be.
That's a commendation that is sending for. That's a commission, ladies. It sounds like a poem as well. We have been commissioned. We have been missioned to go forth and to be an unstoppable force. Well said. Well said. Well said. Thank you so much.
Comment on the number of credits this head girl has. Do you think she's just a head girl? She has El Club del Español in Cuba, whatever. Catholic Club, she's a president. Computer tech, female house leader. And I haven't read off all of them. It's amazing. I mean, look,
She's a leader. She is a leader.
Oh, and if she sings.
and you hear her.
Do you sing?
I sing for free time.
She sings.
And we have to tell you also, attendees, that the proud mom of Courtney is in the room with us, Miss Tanya Loudon, beaming from end to end. So we congratulate her on her marvelous daughter, who's sharing her gifts and her talents and her own inspiration to the world. Let me just read some of the comments online. Terry, there's a shout out to you from Terry in Bahamas.
Oh, wow. Hi.
And thank you, Dr. Terry Carell, for acknowledging that seniors can also be productive. One and dead, no call it duppy. Thanks, Courtney. This is from Erica Davis. Beautiful. Thanks to all the panelists for all the knowledge shared today. This session was quite inspirational. We also had a question about whether JAMCOPY will educate creators about copyright and AI. Now, that's very interesting, copyright and artificial intelligence. That's a very current topic. And just to say to your attendees, if you don't already know, JAMCOPY regularly hosts a webinar similar to this forum, and we call it Conversations Beyond the Book. And we try to look at some of the business issues and other matters that affect creatives beyond the writing and the production of a book. So if you can go onto our YouTube channel, you can view our previous installations where we looked at making a will and why it's important to make a will, preparing for retirement, not too early to do so, and learning about pensions, also not too early to learn about establishing your pensions, investment, preparing for retirement. So go on to our YouTube channel where you can view those previous seminars, webinars. And I think this would be a good topic for us to look at in the near future, copyright and AI. Can ChatGPT have copyright? So thank you very much for that suggestion that we got. Really appreciate it. Now, have I gotten nuggets from everybody? I think I got nuggets from everybody. I did. And just want to say before we close, remember to check out our social media presence. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We are at 17 Ruthven Road, Kingston 10, next door to JPS. You can call us 754-8910. Our website is jamcopy.com. If there are any authors and publishers who have published their works and they're commercially available to the public, take the next step. Come and visit JAMCOPY so that you too can also be part of this copyright compliant culture. And also to let you know, JAMCOPY is celebrating 25 years in July this year, quarter of a century. So do look out. We will be having various activities for celebrating this milestone. And we will also want to refresh our logo. So we'll be calling on visual artists to help us get some creative juices as to how we can upgrade and rebrand our logo. So listen out, look out for our 25th anniversary celebrations. So with that, I just want to thank you 45 people that we had on today for giving us an hour of your afternoon. We hope it was worth your while. I think it was worth your while. We're really appreciative of it. And we wish you a safe and enjoyable rest of the afternoon. Remember, April 26th, World Intellectual Property Day. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.